Hey everybody, this is Perch. I have not read this mail, so here we go. A friend of mine just said, like, you have the worst letter writers. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I have some good letter writers. The difference is, I think I've read mail that most channels would not read. Mails where the person writing is just a complete a hole and is wanting to just rip into me. Because I don't know, in some weird way in my head, it just seems like fair is fair. Like, let's read the negative stuff too. Why not? I'm not. I don't care. I I'm happy to do it. Every now and then people will call me out like, Perch is a coward because he won't come on this live stream. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you could use the word coward. You could also use the word bored and doesn't have time for this shit. And I like, I'm sorry. And if you enjoy watching it, cool. If you enjoy doing it, cool. That's your thing. But I look at some of these live streams and like people are in costumes for like 4 hours at a time debating how woke a movie trailer is. Like, oh my God, I don't have the attention span. I just don't. And I kind of envy those of you who do, but I can't. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna like I'm not talking about anything for 4 hours. Like, no. Anyway, so at least I do my part by reading mails of people who are critical of you. Maybe this one will do too. I don't know. Let's read what it says. It says, "I know they would never do it, but just an idea." I'm hoping this mail is about, I don't know, any number of things. Like, my imagination's running wild. What could this mail be? Well, let's see together. It says, as the title says, I know it's not going to happen, but I just want to get your thoughts on an idea. So many writers have made themselves reviled by most comic fans, and so few are a draw. Do you think sales would increase if companies just removed the writer credit entirely? Personally, I think there's a good chance they would. I can't think of a single writer that I would buy a comic for just because they were writing it, but I can think of dozens that I won't buy because their name is on it. Not to mention, a large amount of the bad writing at the big two is actually bad editing. There are several writers where their big two work is unreadable garbage, but if you look at their indie books before and after their major company work, it's actually pretty good. Clearly, the writer is not the problem in those cases, but they are going to take the blame. Just a thought experiment. Hope you're doing well. Okay, perfect. So what if they remove the writer name from, basically all comics are just, here's the comic and you have no idea who's working on it. Um, okay. It's an interesting thought experiment. It wouldn't work because, the industry has basically established that this is the way it is. And, it'll be hard to unwind that clock. I don't know if that's an expression or not, but it'd just be hard to change it. Um, but I do agree with you in a weird way. I do think well, okay, I don't know. Here, I'll lay out my argument pro and con. On one hand, I think comics in general, because the distribution is so low, because the sales have atrophied as much as they have, I think it's I think that right now the big comic buying audience is very plugged into comics. It's in wrestling terms, the smart marks are buying all the comics. So I don't know that you would actually get a sales reduction. Sorry, I don't know you'd get a sales increase because people are buying comics for the writers. There are people who show up and buy Tom King. Trust me, it happens. Um, so I don't know that you'd get. I think if you took the name off entirely, one word would get around, and I think the market's too small. However, if you were living in the world of the newsstand, or you created the new newsstand, or maybe comics are sold at Walmart or grocery stores again, or something like that, then I think the writer name is probably irrelevant in a lot of those cases. Because as soon as you get a bigger market, well, now the buying audience actually doesn't know who these people are. They just know the characters. And it would allow the companies to just market and put the spotlight on Batman, for example, and not have to worry about, okay, it's Chip Zdarsky's Batman, or whoever it might be. It's no longer a comic about, it's no longer a comic where the writer matters because people are buying it for the character, which in a weird way is what the publishers want anyway. The publishers want to sell the character. They want to be decoupled from the creators. And so if you're able to do that, I don't think it would have an impact. But today in the current market where the direct market's steering most of the sales, I think it wouldn't work. Too many people are wired into what that looks like. The interesting question is the artist. I do think here's and my writer friends are absolutely going to hate this entire commentary. But the reality is, it would probably be healthy for comics if, for a period of time, the writer was completely and utterly deprioritized, and they leaned in hard to the artist. Now, in the same way, they would need to build up the artists. I would suggest they need to bring back inkers and they need to give artists more time to actually get stuff done, and all the things that come along with it. But if you were to do that, and then you basically build the artist as top billing for the comic, and you made the writer irrelevant, what that would do, again, if you're in the direct market, and the direct market, people know the writers and everything else, so I don't think it works for them. But what would happen is, in the mass market, in the places where people know the characters but not the creators, it would shine a spotlight on kind of the art and the uniqueness of comics. And it's a little bit, in some ways, it's a little bit, if you think about like movies and the analogy of the artist is the actor and the director is the writer. Well, movies are sold on actors a lot more than the director. You do have the director's name on there and everything else, but it's not billed that way, with some rare exceptions. There's definitely, some directors that that get attention, but by and large, a lot of them are sold on the acting talent. Right now, and this director was actually mentioned quite a bit, writer. Who was a director of Barbie? Who were the main actors in Barbie? If you surveyed 100 people, most people would get the actor and the actress down. A handful would get the director down, and that's one of the more popular directors. So, but I think the net effect of that is that the movie then it's sold and billed and presented on style and substance. It's built on kind of the visuals and the how they all play and work together. And I think comics would actually benefit from that if you really leaned in hard to the artist, put them front and center, and actually put the writer in the back seat, like way in the back seat for a period of time. I think it'd be healthy, because I think what it would do, and the publishers don't like this, is it would create superstar artists again. And I think the comic industry needs superstar artists badly. To your point about like writers, the tough reality is this. And again, people on the internet and YouTubers hate it, but the vast majority of the comic buying audience, including the people who are wired in, going to the direct market and everything else, they are not on Twitter. They have no idea if the creators are acting like a-holes on social media or not. They're not. They don't know. They're not paying attention. They don't care. Um, I, that's just a fact. I think the people on Twitter who are wired into Comicsgate or YouTube or everything else, in their minds, they've been, battling it out with Mark Waid for a long time. But if you go into a comic shop and you say, "Hey, what do you think of Mark Waid?" People go, "Oh yeah, as a writer, he's just like, no, 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 no. What do you think of him on Facebook?" A lot of people in that comic shop are going to be like, I don't go to Facebook. Like, what are you even talking about? No, I have no interest in that. That's how they don't. People don't think about that stuff. They don't want to think about that stuff. They want to think about, Superman, and Mark Waid's writing it, and they're like, I've generally liked comics by Mark Waid, and I have no idea what he said on Twitter. By and large, most people are not plugged into that or buying comics. And for evidence, I mean, I can just tell you, I can count. I gave this example a lot. I could probably count on two hands the amount of time people came into the shop when I was there, at least, and then complained about somebody's social media habits. And some of this was right in the heart of like 2016, 2017. It never came up. Now, people have argued with me saying, well, they're just not comfortable talking with you. I don't agree, because the people who are coming into the shop were comfortable talking about like the size of the Hulk's penis. Did Mr. Fantastic ever use his kind of stretching abilities to, ultra pleasure Sue Storm? I mean, people had no problem getting into topics that were, highly personal. I mean, I had to shut down a conversation at one point where a couple of people, regulars, were talking in heavy detail about which comic characters they masturbated to, and that was not a. I had shut. Like kids come into the store. These guys are not phased. They just keep right on going. Um, so the idea that feel comfortable talking about that and then not comfortable, like, ooh, I can't reveal that I read a post about Mark Waid on Facebook that was salty. Like, no, no. I'm sorry, but no. That doesn't wash. So I don't, you know, I think most people don't. But anyway, I think it's an intriguing idea what you're saying. Again, it will never happen. I think the publishers won't like it, the writers won't like it, but I take it away, see what happens. In the mass market, I think it would help. And beyond that, I I don't know. I think let's make the artists stars again. Yeah, why not? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.